Alright, let me start with a question that sounds harmless until you actually sit with it for a second. If the NHL salary cap is supposed to make the league fair, why does it feel like the better your team is, the more the system starts kicking you in the shins? Think about it. You draft well, you develop players the right way, you win playoff rounds, you build something real. And instead of stability, you're immediately staring down a spreadsheet asking, okay, who do we lose next? Meanwhile, teams at the bottom of the standings miss the playoffs, shrug, grab a top 5 pick, clear cap space, and suddenly look like they're playing chess while contenders are stuck playing financial Jenga. Now that's not bad luck, that's the structure. Because in the NHL, the salary cap doesn't just level the playing field, it quietly punishes teams for being good at hockey. Let's break this down like we're talking after a game, not like we're in a front office meeting pretending this all makes perfect sense. First, the big thing people forget. The NHL runs a hard cap. No luxury tax, no exceptions, no "we'll sort it out later." You're either under the cap or you're breaking the rules. That's it. For the 2024-25 season, that cap sits at $88 million. Sounds like a lot until you remember that one superstar now costs you $10 to $12 million a year. Pay 2 stars and you've already burned close to a third of your entire budget. Add a third and suddenly your depth chart starts looking like a clearance rack. This is where great teams start bleeding. Winning teams don't have cheap stars for long. The guys you draft and develop eventually want market value, and honestly, they deserve it. But the moment they get paid, the math turns brutal. You can't keep everyone. You're forced to make hockey decisions that are really just accounting decisions wearing skates. The Chicago Blackhawks are the cleanest example of this. 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, a dynasty by modern standards, and yet even while they were winning, the core was slowly being dismantled. Key contributors traded, depth stripped away, not because the team forgot how to evaluate talent, but because the cap wouldn't allow success to sit still. Winning created the problem. Now flip it around and look at bad teams. They don't deal with the ceiling, they deal with the floor. And this is where things get weird. The salary floor exists, so teams don't just cheap out completely. Right now, it's around $65 million, rising to over $70 million soon. On paper, that sounds like accountability. In reality, it creates some hilarious incentives. A rebuilding team like San Jose can be tens of millions below the floor. They don't want to spend, they're not trying to win. But the league says, too bad, go spend money anyway. So what do? They take bad contracts from good teams. They sign veterans on short deals they know won't matter. They hit the floor without committing to anything long-term. There's no real penalty for being bad. You're not fighting to squeeze value out of every dollar. You're just trying to reach a minimum and wait for draft picks to mature. Meanwhile, contenders are calculating whether they can afford a fourth-line winger without blowing up the roster. And that gap shows up most clearly at the trade deadline. If you're a contender, you're usually right up against the cap. You've already spent every dollar trying to maximize talent. So when a deadline upgrade becomes available, your options are limited. You can't just add a player, you have to subtract one first. That used to be softened by LTIR tricks. Stash an injured contract, add a rental, sort it out later. The league saw that, didn't like how clever teams were getting, and shut it down. Starting in 2025-26, playoff rosters have to be fully cap compliant. No loopholes, no funny business. So now, a contender can't add without paying. But a rebuilding team with cap space? They can absorb contracts like it's nothing. They become brokers, middlemen, banks. Sure, we'll take that deal for a second-round pick. So ask yourself, who's being punished here? Then there's the aging contract trap, which hits winning teams harder than anyone wants to admit. To keep stars, contenders hand out long-term deals, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. When those contracts are signed, they make sense. The player is elite. The cap hit feels justified. Fast forward a few seasons, the player slows down. The salary doesn't. Suddenly, that contract is anchoring your entire roster. You can't move it, you can't buy it out without pain, and you can't replace the production because you're capped out. Bad teams don't live with that. They let contracts expire. They reset. They clear books every few years and start fresh. The Winnipeg Jets freeing up massive cap space while retooling isn't a failure. It's how the system is designed to work. Winning teams don't get fresh starts. They get bill collectors. This is why dynasties basically don't exist anymore. Before the cap, teams like the Oilers, Red Wings, and Rangers could keep cores together for a decade. That's impossible now. Since the hard cap came in after 2005, no team has pulled off 3 cups in a row. A few teams have managed back-to-back titles, but even that takes everything going right, and it never stays comfortable for long. And here's the part people blur together. Tampa's back-to-back run did come with the infamous LTIR flexibility people argue about to this day, but they weren't the only team to repeat in the cap era. Pittsburgh did it, Florida did it. The point is, repeating happens, but living up there for years and years is where the cap starts hunting you. That alone tells you everything. The system sees sustained success and immediately starts asking for a sacrifice. And just when you think it can't get harder, add taxes into the mix. Teams in high-tax markets like Toronto or Montreal have to overpay to get the same take-home money players can earn in low-tax states. A $10 million contract in Ontario doesn't feel the same as $10 million in Florida or Texas. That means contenders in traditional hockey markets have to spend more cap space to compete for the same talent. So not only are you capped, not only are you punished for drafting well, you're also fighting geography. And yet, despite all this, the cap technically works. Look at the last few champions: Pittsburgh, Colorado, Vegas, Florida, Florida again, Edmonton knocking on the door. Smaller markets, non-traditional powerhouses. From the league's perspective, that's success. Competitive balance achieved. But here's the cost. No sustained excellence, no long arcs, no teams that feel inevitable. Every contender feels temporary. Every championship feels like a lease with an expiration date. Fans aren't dreaming about 5-year runs anymore. They're praying for one healthy season before the roster gets gutted. And the rising cap might actually make this worse before it makes it better. Yes, the ceiling is projected to jump dramatically over the next few years, but so is the floor. That gap between teams willing to spend to the max and teams just hitting the minimum could create a new kind of imbalance. Owners who push payrolls to the limit will have an advantage, while cautious teams sit back and wait. Which raises another uncomfortable question. If the cap keeps rising, but the rules stay the same, are we just shifting who gets punished? Because the core paradox remains. The NHL has built a system where doing everything right eventually forces you to do something wrong. Trade a fan favorite, lose a key defender, let a homegrown star walk. Not because you failed, because you succeeded too much. And fans feel it. They invest emotionally in players knowing deep down it won't last. They celebrate championships while already bracing for the breakup tour. That's not how sports loyalty is supposed to feel. So when people say the salary cap creates fairness, the real question is, fairness for who? For teams trying to climb? Absolutely. For teams already at the top? Not even close. The NHL didn't just flatten the league, it turned sustained greatness into a liability. And until that changes, every contender is living on borrowed time. Every championship is a countdown, and every great team knows the clock is already ticking the moment they raise a banner. That's not parity, that's success with a built-in self-destruct button. And here's the part that really messes with you once you notice it. The league markets hope, not continuity. Every preseason hype video is about this could be the year, not this could be the next great run. The system is built to make every fan base feel like they're one smart off-season away, even if that optimism is built on someone else getting dismantled. It turns roster building into a constant churn. Windows don't slowly close anymore, they slam shut. One bad contract, one breakout season by the wrong depth player, one arbitration award you didn't budget for, and suddenly the math doesn't work. The talent didn't disappear, the cap just decided you'd had your turn. And that creates weird behavior at the management level. Teams hesitate to keep groups together. They trade players a year early instead of a year late. They let chemistry walk because flexibility matters more than familiarity. You don't always lose players because they declined. Sometimes you lose them because they were too good at the wrong time. It also changes how fans experience winning. Championships don't feel like the start of something anymore. They feel like the end. The parade rolls by, and half the conversation is already about who won't be back next season. That's a strange emotional place for a sport to live. Nobody is asking for unchecked spending or a return to rich teams hoarding talent forever, but there's a middle ground between chaos and demolition. Right now, the needle is firmly stuck on demolition. Because when success triggers punishment faster than failure triggers correction, the message is clear. Build carefully, win briefly, then move on. And maybe that's the league's ideal world. Constant turnover, fresh stories, new contenders every year. But it comes at the cost of something fans used to love. Watching something grow, watching a core age together, watching greatness sustain itself. Until the rules stop treating excellence like a problem to solve, this cycle won't change. Great teams will keep getting broken apart, bad teams will keep getting second chances, and the cap will keep doing exactly what it was designed to do. Not just create parity, but make sure nobody stays on top for too long.